Dude, you won't believe how tired I feel this morning.
Why do you look so tired? What's going on?
I don't know. I'm just getting really tired lately, like I wake up drained every day.
That sounds worrying. Have you seen a doctor?
Yes, I've done medical tests to find out what's wrong, but they couldn't find anything. I've been on medication, but nothing works.
Really? If that's the case, we must look beyond the ordinary. This might be a spiritual issue.
Spiritual? What do you mean?
Have you noticed anything strange in your house? Like, no matter how many times you try to get rid of them, they keep invading your space and your peace?
Actually, there's one thing. Spiders. No matter what I do, they keep coming back, and I just can't control them.
That's it. You haven't been prayerful enough. You can't control them physically because they're used by the spirit world. I have a friend who went through something similar. The root of the problem is spiritual.
I didn't know something like that could happen to me. It's like I'm completely powerless over them.
It's a spiritual attack. Let me share with you some insects you might find in your house that indicate you're under spiritual attack. Number 1. Spiders. Spiders have long been creatures that evoke a range of emotions in people, from fascination to fear. In various cultures, they symbolize different things, from creativity to danger, and their presence can carry spiritual significance. In Christian belief, the appearance of spiders or the constant infestation of them in one's living space can be interpreted as more than just a mere annoyance or physical pest. From a biblical perspective, the spider holds a significant place in understanding spiritual warfare, hidden traps, and the subtle nature of demonic influence. In the Bible, spiders are mentioned in a few places, most notably in the book of Isaiah, where they are seen as a symbol of weakness and futility. Isaiah 59:5 states, "They hatch adder's eggs and weave the spider's web. He that eateth of their eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh out into a viper." This verse paints a vivid picture of the danger that can arise from seemingly small or inconspicuous sources. The reference to a spider's web is particularly symbolic. Just as a spider weaves its web intricately and invisibly, so can spiritual traps be laid down in our lives in ways that may not be immediately obvious. These traps can entangle individuals, drawing them into snares that rob them of peace, joy, and even physical health. In many Christian teachings, the spider's web is seen as a metaphor for the entanglement of sin or spiritual oppression. When one is not vigilant in their faith, they may find themselves caught in webs of deception, much like how a spider's web traps its prey. The Bible encourages believers to stay watchful and pray against these unseen forces. Ephesians 6:11-12 warns, "Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." The web, a tool used by spiders to trap their prey, is akin to the spiritual traps that the enemy lays for the unwary believer. These traps might not always be as obvious as a physical spider's web, but their effects are just as dangerous. Spiritual attacks can manifest in different ways: confusion, a constant sense of being drained, financial struggles, or even health issues that have no clear cause. Much like how a spider's web is delicate and often unnoticed until it ensnares someone, spiritual attacks can be subtle at first, but they eventually weave a web of hardship and suffering. The spider, therefore, serves as a reminder that believers must be cautious about what they allow into their lives. Whether it's negativity, doubt, or spiritual compromise, these things can create a web of confusion and disruption in one's life. It also underscores the need for prayer and spiritual vigilance. In moments when life feels like it's closing in, or when one senses an unusual level of tiredness, discomfort, or confusion, it's essential to discern if the source is physical, emotional, or spiritual. A spider infestation, therefore, can serve as a spiritual wake-up call, encouraging individuals to look beyond the physical and consider the spiritual forces at play in their lives. As the Bible teaches, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7. Spiritual vigilance and prayer, combined with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, can help break free from the webs that try to entangle believers, whether these webs are of spiritual, emotional, or even physical nature. Number 2. Black butterflies. Black butterflies are often seen as beautiful, mysterious creatures that flutter in and out of our lives, but they can also carry profound symbolic meanings, especially in a spiritual or biblical context. The butterfly, in general, is a symbol of transformation, renewal, and hope. However, when it is black, it often takes on a different tone, signaling darkness, mourning, and spiritual challenges. From a Christian perspective, the black butterfly can represent a struggle with the forces of darkness or a spiritual season of transformation that is difficult and painful. In biblical terms, darkness is frequently associated with evil, confusion, and oppression, but it also holds the promise of light and deliverance, for the Bible is clear that God's light overcomes all darkness. One of the most profound references to darkness in the Bible can be found in John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This verse reassures believers that while darkness may seem overwhelming, it is not permanent. God's light, His truth and power, will always shine through and defeat the shadows. A black butterfly, then, might represent a moment of spiritual trial or a period in life where one feels lost, confused, or oppressed by external circumstances. The fact that it is a butterfly adds an element of hope, though. Just as the butterfly undergoes a painful process of metamorphosis, so too does the believer go through times of hardship that ultimately lead to a renewed, stronger self. The black butterfly can also represent a spiritual battle, where one is under attack by forces that seek to drain joy, peace, and purpose. Just as the butterfly's delicate wings can be seen as fragile, so too are the emotional and spiritual states of believers who are undergoing such battles. The presence of a black butterfly might serve as a call to prayer and spiritual warfare, a reminder that although one might be experiencing a moment of oppression, victory is possible through God's intervention. The Apostle Paul, in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9, describes a similar experience. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. The black butterfly, then, mirrors the believer's resilience. Though they are touched by darkness, they are not consumed by it. The insect's fleeting and transient nature also speaks to the impermanence of such spiritual battles. As the butterfly emerges from the cocoon, it signifies new life and freedom after a period of struggle. So too can believers trust that after a time of spiritual oppression or challenge, they will emerge renewed, stronger, and more deeply rooted in their faith.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Number 3. Cockroaches. Cockroaches are often considered one of the most unwelcome and repulsive pests, frequently evoking feelings of disgust and dread. Their appearance, often in dark corners of the home, their ability to scurry quickly, and their seemingly indestructible nature, make them creatures that many people would rather avoid at all costs. In a more profound, spiritual sense, the presence of cockroaches can symbolize more than just an inconvenient pest infestation. They can serve as a metaphor for hidden or persistent problems, spiritual pollution, and the ongoing presence of negative forces in one's life. From a biblical perspective, cockroaches, like many other creatures, carry with them deeper spiritual meanings that can be reflective of inner struggles, the persistence of sin, and the overwhelming nature of spiritual oppression. Cockroaches thrive in dark, damp, and decaying environments, which is often how sin operates. It is subtle, thriving in the hidden corners of our lives, quietly multiplying until it becomes overwhelming. The Bible speaks of sin in similar terms, often associating it with darkness and decay. In Ephesians 5:11-13, it says, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. Like cockroaches in the dark, sin may seem hidden and harmless at first, but its persistence in secret spaces can eventually bring harm and destruction. The cockroach's resilience is another characteristic that makes it a powerful spiritual symbol. These creatures are known for their ability to survive in almost any condition, enduring extreme temperatures, and living in environments that many other creatures cannot tolerate. This resilience mirrors the persistence of negative spiritual forces in a believer's life, forces that may not be easily eradicated. Like sin, which can seem persistent and relentless, the cockroach's presence can be a reminder of how powerful destructive habits or spiritual influences can be when not addressed. Cockroaches serve as a powerful reminder that what we allow to persist in our lives, whether in secret or in the hidden corners of our hearts, can multiply and lead to destruction. The Bible encourages believers to purify themselves and turn away from sin, so that they may experience life in abundance and not be overwhelmed by the forces that seek to destroy their peace and joy. On a more practical level, the presence of cockroaches in a home could also be seen as a spiritual warning to examine one's environment. Just as physical cleanliness can prevent pests from thriving, spiritual cleanliness, through prayer, repentance, and regular reflection, prevents the enemy from gaining a foothold in one's life. Number 4. Flies. Flies, though often seen as mere nuisances, carry with them a deeper spiritual significance, especially when viewed through a biblical lens. These tiny creatures are associated with filth, decay, and the unpleasant aspects of life. They thrive in environments where things are decomposing, and their very presence is a sign of corruption and contamination. From a spiritual perspective, flies can be seen as symbols of the small but persistent problems that can infiltrate one's life, affecting one's peace, purity, and relationship with God. In the Bible, flies are often linked to destruction and judgment. In Exodus 8:24, during the plagues upon Egypt, God sent swarms of flies as a punishment for Pharaoh's hardened heart and refusal to let the Israelites go. The verse says, "And the Lord did so. And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies." This passage highlights how the flies came as a form of judgment, not just as a physical nuisance, but as a spiritual sign of God's displeasure. The flies did not simply represent an inconvenience. They symbolized the consequences of sin, disobedience, and the corruption that comes when one turns away from God. The presence of flies in one's life can, therefore, be seen as a warning to examine what areas of one's life may be decaying, neglected, or compromised spiritually. Flies often come where there is waste or decay, and spiritually, they can symbolize the ways in which sin, bitterness, unforgiveness, or unchecked negativity can breed within a person's heart. Just as flies are attracted to what is rotten or spoiled, so too are sinful tendencies attracted to areas of our lives that are not aligned with God's will. The Bible consistently calls believers to be pure and clean in heart and spirit. In Psalm 51:10, David prays, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." The fly, therefore, serves as a reminder that spiritual decay can creep into the hidden corners of our hearts if we are not vigilant. In addition to their association with decay, flies are known for their persistence. Once they find a way into a space, they can be difficult to get rid of, buzzing around relentlessly. This can symbolize how sin and temptation can persist in a person's life if not properly addressed. Like the fly that keeps returning, unresolved issues, negative thought patterns, or spiritual attacks can continue to hover in one's life, distracting and draining them. Flies are often attracted to what is unclean, and in a spiritual sense, they can symbolize how certain attitudes or behaviors, anger, envy, pride, can lead to spiritual pollution. Ecclesiastes 10:1 says, "As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor." This verse equates the smallness of the fly with the way seemingly minor sins or faults can corrupt something that is otherwise good. It is a reminder that even small, seemingly insignificant flaws in our spiritual walk can have a larger impact than we realize, spoiling the good things in our lives. The fly, in this sense, can symbolize the subtle, unnoticed sin that, if allowed to fester, can gradually destroy one's relationship with God. Moreover, flies are often associated with death, decay, and the rotting of what was once living and healthy. Spiritually, this can represent the death of something beautiful in a person's life, a relationship, a calling, or a sense of purpose, because it has been overtaken by sin or neglect. When we allow spiritual decay to take root, it can cause the things that were once vibrant in our relationship with God to wither. Jesus warned about this spiritual decay in Matthew 15:18-19. "But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander." Just as flies gather around rotting food, sin gathers in the hearts of those who do not guard their thoughts and actions.
Oh my goodness, I've seen all of these around my house at different times. I never connected the dots.
It's not just coincidence. These things are often signs of spiritual oppression. But don't worry, God has sent me to help you.
God has sent you to save me from this spiritual attack.
You're welcome, Rose. Now, you need to pray and call upon the Lord for deliverance. He will set you free.
I will pray. I believe God will deliver me from this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.